Kia ora, welcome to the Open Lab podcast.
Open Lab, the podcast.
Where we will be opening up conversations about the transition between university life and the design industry.
We give emergent design thinkers experience on all things design and arm them with the tools to hit the ground running.
You're with Connor
And Michael.
and we're here to help you through this transition. Kia ora and welcome back to Open Lab, the podcast. Today we are super excited because we have our first guest, and I'll let you do the pleasure of introducing him, Michael.
Yeah, we got Dylan here. Hey Dylan. Do a little bit of an introduction of yourself.
I'm originally from Wanganui, born and raised. Throughout, I guess, my whole life, just lived there. Went through school, immediate high school. Got into design around year 12. Kind of really enjoyed that subject. Kind of knew I wanted to get into that area for like further studies. Yeah, made my way down to Wellington, Massey.
What made you decide upon going to university, or what subjects did you actually study in high school to kind of get here?
Yeah, so I did kind of the broad range of, maths and English and PE and all that kind of stuff, along with like computers, geography. I was also interested in geography. Design kind of always ticked the right boxes for me in terms of what I wanted to do. And so year 12 was like art and painting, that kind of side of it. And then, what was it? I think it was year 11. And then year 12 was like the design, art and design. And then year 13 kind of, when you produce your boards of work.
When you were doing design,
Yeah.
Was it actually design
It
at
was,
high school?
It was
on
kind
the
of like
computer?
Photoshop based, Illustrator. You started to learn all that side of Adobe. Our first experience with InDesign was when we had to frame all our boards together, and that was very interesting. I was like, whoa, what is this? What is this software? Like, what is this doing? I have no idea what I'm doing, but no, the teachers were real helpful in terms of like guiding us with like
Yeah.
all those kind of.
That's crazy, because
Programs.
I remember back to high school, year 11, art design, and we'd do everything on Photoshop or Illustrator. And now if you come to university and you do any kind of type on Photoshop, you just get your hands scalded.
That stuff wasn't even around when I was at high school. I didn't even.
What
even
did you use at
set
high school,
for it.
Michael?
It was basically paintbrush and.
Oh my God.
Paintbrush and, I don't know,
Was it
pencil
freehand
and
back then?
charcoal.
Nice.
No, we didn't even. I don't think there was even a subject that actually had like design in it. I don't know. I went to a really small high school, so
Yeah,
what
us
is?
too, so close to Wanganui.
Yes, so close. We're like, what is it?
Neighbours.
Neighbours.
Anyway, I'd love to know what made you choose Massey, because I know that there's a few design schools and obviously polytechnics. There's a lot of places you could go. What made you come to Wellington and go to Massey University?
I remember there was one day where someone from Massey actually came in to our school to talk about their design school in particular. Our whole class kind of like all walked into the library. He came in and he advertised this school, really sold it to us. All from there, I was kind of like, interested. I was like, I'm going to definitely go to the open day and check it out a bit further. I think maybe a few weeks later we went down to Wellington, checked all through like block 12, it was nice and new, and got shown around the place. And I was like, this place is awesome. Heard a lot of great things about it as well, nationally accredited and all that. I was like, going to apply for this place.
Cool.
Yeah.
And did it meet your expectations?
I applied for the Cube and I was lucky enough to get in. Meeting all those people in the same boat as you definitely helped.
And is the Cube a place where they like shove a whole lot of strangers into your own apartment? You just have to deal with who you got.
So there was like an application process,
Yeah.
you'd ask, what are you studying? So everyone from Massey was staying there, I think.
But you didn't know any of those students.
No, I didn't.
Essentially, no.
I know a few mates who applied. I think they applied too late and they didn't get in. So, but there was a Cube page on Facebook. You'd meet all your flatties before you even moved in. So that was kind of,
Oh, wow.
you'd kind of know who you were flatting with to a degree.
Just saying, again, times have changed. When I came down here, I was at the ones down on...
The basin.
Yeah, basically, we got chucked into this room and no idea who these people were, and we just had to go
Oh my
and work it
goodness.
all out right on that spot. But in the end, one of my true friends, she came out of that whole situation, and we're still like friends today. So it's really awesome to meet all those people from that first year.
That's
place.
interesting, because I went through the exact same process, but like 7 years ago with the Cube, and put down if you know anyone and like put your room number, and then everyone would be like, oh my god, we're in the same room.
Oh, real?
And then you'd like add each other on Facebook. It'd be so cute. Highly recommend getting in early with accommodation because it's such a, I mean, it's not an end all, but it does help that transition into university.
Yeah, I feel like if you go straight into flatting from, just
Yeah.
finishing high school, it can be so scary. So I think the Cube, is awesome kind of student accommodation in terms of like compared to Vic, where you actually got your own kitchen, your own facilities, so it's more like a real flatting environment.
Teaches the skills for next year, eh?
Yeah, life
how
skills.
to cook instead of just using a microwave or something.
Yeah, I was pretty rubbish at cooking, so I had to learn pretty quickly.
So back to university life, how do you think you've changed as like a person and a designer from like what you thought design was to what it actually is?
Moving into the Cube and going to uni, studying design, I thought it was going to be more skills based, learning how to use Photoshop better or Illustrator better, but it was more about the process and collaborative learning and the design thinking behind design. Type definitely helped the way I thought about design because it's just so integral. So yeah, moving from like a skills based thinking perspective to process and design thinking.
I think that's super important because that's also something I learned along the way, and I think a lot of people do, because when you leave school, that's kind of all you have is what's on trend, what looks good, and then when you get into university, it's all about the design thinking and the actual communication of what you're creating.
Yeah, and trying to solve a problem, I guess, and using a mix of methodologies and how you actually get to that conclusion.
Fourth year, I was in MORSA, which is the student association. I was the College of Creative Arts exec. The welfare vice president, I think it was Bridget, or I think she was the education at the time, education vice president, hit me up saying she knew someone from Open Lab who were looking for students. So
Yeah.
I think I was kind of lucky enough to, I think, one of the first ones of the year to get in and work for you guys. But I actually had no idea who you guys were or like where you were. So
Yeah, that's so interesting because I was actually the person that messaged your friend and she told me, I've got a perfect person for you, and that's exactly why we're making this podcast, because we want to be more accessible and we want to be something that all our students know about, because we are so vital and like such an awesome experience to have and come learn in a real design studio. So hopefully this podcast can reach more of you and you can learn more about us so that we don't have to stalk all our friends to find new students.
I mean, speaking of stalking, Timmy, who we got on before you, Dylan, I managed to find him through Instagram. I seen some of his artworks that came up on the Open Lab Instagram account, and I was just flicking through, liked a couple of them, and then I was just like, hey, you don't know me, but
do you want to work at Open Lab?
Do you want to work? And and then we started having, I guess, conversations over Instagram as well. So there's many channels that you can come to get in contact with us to start that experience of being with Open Lab.
And I think because obviously we are a real design studio, but we want to make everyone as comfortable as possible. So if you feel more comfortable messaging us through Instagram rather than sending us a traditional email, that's what we're all about.
So we signed you up,
Yeah.
and what was the experience like, and what were some of your key takeaways that you got from that experience?
So I worked on a few projects with you guys, but the main learnings, like working under the guidance of a principal designer, taking, feedback and how do I apply this. Time management is definitely a big one, compared to get it like 6 weeks for a project in Massey compared to, a lot shorter timeline for real life projects. So
Yeah.
So one of your projects that you actually worked on, you had to take it away from another junior designer because they moved on to another project. So we had to shuffle you guys around a bit. What was it like actually coming in and stepping into a design that had already been created, but you had to continue on that project?
So I think you guys were 1 week into the presentations. You've shown your initial concepts to your clients. And so that was kind of like the visual style, a couple of page mock-ups. I think they, approved of those styles. Kind of jumped in, and then the other junior designer, Timmy, who I was working with, quickly showed me, hey, these are paragraph styles, these are, where all the content goes, but there's still obviously room for change, and there were challenges to it, but I didn't think it was overly challenging. Yeah.
And I think that's what we aim to do, is that's kind of your first real experience in a studio, which is, if anyone, works in a studio, you do hand over from designer to designer or director to designer, and then we aim to give a project that's obviously fail-proof because it's been looked after, and you obviously work with your mentor, so that's awesome that you're able to like come in and feel safe and confident working on a brand new project in a brand new studio with brand new people.
Yeah. Can you remember like your first day there? Like, what was it like coming into the studio? Were you like amped as anything, or were you kind of like, oh no, I can't say too much, I don't know what's going on?
Nervous.
Yeah, I was a bit nervous. I don't think I talked much that day. I was working on the big brochure, and then I think you guys gave me all the content on a kind of Word document, gave me the file to work on. I was kind of just laying it out.
Had you worked through that process before, like grabbing text from a Word document and then shoving it into a design, or?
Not to that scale. A lot of projects, working on like posters for, Massey projects, there'd be a few lines of text that you'd have to include somewhere in the poster, but kind of not copying to that degree. I guess in third year we had the editorial booklet, which was, more like that, but feel like there was more creative freedom with the brochure, so it was a bit challenging, but led me in the right direction. Michael, saying like, hey, these bits could be visualized, or these parts could be changed, so giving me that bit of creative freedom in that respect.
Yeah, creative freedom. I always believe that you guys have got all the skills and capabilities, and you just need that friendly tap on the shoulder or that little push to go somewhere else to make that work kind of sing. Or even just think about like some of the small bits that you can kind of expand up to make it look really awesome, as opposed to just having it at 12 point,
Yeah,
12
you're
leading.
really awesome at doing that, because coming into Open Lab, it's almost like you are needing permission and you don't give yourself permission, like coming from a student and then being into a designer. As a mentor, you give that permission, be like, hey, let's make it huge, or like, let's make it bright pink. And I think that's something a lot of designers will learn along the way, to just try it out, and if it doesn't work, then who cares, and move on. But it's okay to try things out, and it's a safe place to do that.
Did you have any really like stuck moments in Open Lab where you just couldn't get out a design concept, or did it actually flow?
There were a few points where I was like looking at a document thinking, this isn't working, but I don't know why it's not working. I don't want to stare at this thing for too long, so I don't want to waste time. But I don't want to, get Michael over every 5 minutes, that kind of side to it.
How did you deal with that situation then?
I think you've just got to communicate.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to just sit there doing nothing. Just getting you over, saying, hey, what do you think of this? Can I change? Where can I go with this?
Yeah, and I guess that happens to me a lot within the role. There's always, when there's a lot of students that have come in, they're always like 5 minutes, hey Michael, hey Michael, hey Michael, and I'm just like, yep, sweet, I'll come over and talk to you. It's all good. Don't worry about it. It's chilled. That's my job. That's what I'm meant to be doing. You don't have to sit in your seat going, oh shit, I don't know how to do anything, or oh no, am I wasting time by being hesitant towards getting help, or blah, blah, blah.
And I think that's key. Like, no question is a dumb question. That's so important, and it is so much better to just put your hand up and be like, I'm struggling, rather than sit there and because it's clients' money. Like, remember that's important, and communication is key. Just say how it is. Like, we don't expect anyone to be professionals or anything, and that's exactly why we get people through, so that they can learn that whole process and learn as you go, because everyone's still learning.
Just going on from episode 1, where Connor had some fun times with emails and writing them and saying sorry to everyone. The non-designery things in terms of like timesheets, and I get you guys to write up client changes, or write as if you were writing to the client but not actually physically doing it and sending it off. What are those non-design things that you learnt through Open Lab?
If there were any changes, to a previous concept, you kind of told me to, hey, write them down in a Word document. Yeah, it was all about the language I used. You'd have to move from saying, I think this works, to saying, this works because, not kind of second guessing yourself to a client. Yeah, you definitely help with that.
Yeah, like having that confidence to be like, I've made it blue because you've obviously done it for a reason, and it's obviously the right reason in your eyes. So it's just kind of communicating that. But I know from experience that when I first started, I would apologize and be like, oh, and we think it looks good because, like, real timid. Yeah. And it's just, just owning your design and owning the reason you did it, because no one can argue that. That was your choice. That was your decision. And you're just communicating that.
Having that confidence to go, okay, I am actually a designer. I do have a point of view, and this is what I want to deliver you guys. Just having that empowerment.
Yeah. I guess that was another key learning at Open Lab, was having that confidence to justify why you did something over apologising for changing it, So that definitely helped.
What I love about Massey is that it teaches your own process and why you're a designer, why you do things. And there is always a reason, there's always meaning. We don't just do things for fun. And that might be subconsciously, like making something blue, but there's always a reason if you dig deep.
I guess that also helped like putting your work out there as well, because that's...
That is true. And,
Yeah,
and I
guys.
guess, did you have your portfolio ready in 4th year?
I did not. I was kind of getting bits and pieces ready towards the end of the year. In hindsight, I should have probably had it by the start of November, which is kind of like before the exposure exhibition was, but I was kind of working through it at that point.
And so for anyone that doesn't know, Exposure is Massey's end of year exhibition where all the students exhibit what they've been working on that whole entire year. What was your portfolio? Did you do it online? Was it tangible?
So I bought a Squarespace website, nice and easy, kind of a gallery template, just to put all my photos and captions, and you can put it in order and change the layout. You kind of got that a bit of freedom, but it's in a kind of very accessible and easy to manage UI.
I did the exact same. I went straight to Squarespace because I know a lot of people were like delving into Behance portfolios, or there's like WordPress, or like literally making their own. But I highly recommend going with the easy option, because at the end of the day, it's just about getting your work out there and keeping it simple, or putting your own spin on it. Like, it doesn't have to be this fancy own website.
Yeah,
I mean,
not
unless
like you have
that's your
to
forte.
code it yourself
Yeah.
or anything. Like, come on, templates are good for something.
You don't have to have the same portfolio for the rest of your life. It's just to get that first job or put yourself out there.
And so was it exciting, Dylan, to be able to put Open Labs work up on your portfolio instead of just having university projects on there?
Yeah, definitely kind of gave me the edge, I feel, in interviews. I made this project through a real design agency, and these are like the key skills I learned, and this is what I've made compared to university projects as well. So it's good having that mix.
That's awesome, because that's literally all we aim to do, is to give that one project that helped leverage you over other students, or gave you the skills that maybe they haven't learned. I felt really powerful about having my own projects or Open Lab projects on my portfolio, because it shows that you've worked with a client. It shows that you've learned how to do emails and time management, which is those things that you don't necessarily get to learn at university.
Tell us what it was like going through your honours year.
Yeah, so that was a big change to the previous years.
What was that main change?
More research, but having more time to work on that research in terms of like delivering a design output. So semester 2 for 3rd year, you kind of got a taste of it. It was probably about half that amount of time you got to work on a project compared to the 4th year.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of set us up in terms of like expectations and how does research inform your designs. So the lecturers were real kind of keen on telling us that, saying, this is what you should be prepared for next year. And then going into 4th year, a challenge for me personally was finding a topic that I wanted to work on, because it took me a very long time. So
I think everyone has that issue.
Yeah.
So what would be some key points to people that are going through this year?
talk to your peers, or definitely, talk to a lecturer or a wide range of lecturers early to establish, what are your interests, what are problems you want to solve, or, what are issues that you see in the world.
And I like, my pointer would be, just don't put too much pressure on it. It's your last year at uni, and you can literally get the choice of choosing anything in the world, and I think that's the most daunting. But obviously choosing something that you're passionate about, but also has this thing and this depth that you can research. I was the exact same, and I took so long choosing it. And luckily for me, it just kind of came to me. It wasn't what I expected I was going to choose. So I think just go with your gut and the flow, and don't put too much pressure on choosing this huge topic, because at the end of the day, I'm sure you're a good enough designer that you can research and come up with solutions for any design problem. As long as you've got the problem, then you're sorted.
Are you still in love with that project?
There were a few things I would change, but yeah, that's just me.
What about you, Connor?
Oh, I still love mine, but
Yeah.
obviously there's so many things I would change, because even when I left uni, I made a book, and I was so excited I wanted to publish it and all this stuff. And then looking back now, I'm like, whoa, there's so much I've learned recently that I would put into it. And it's not even the design side. It's more choosing, diverse imagery and the words I used and the way I told the story instead of what it looked like. And I think that was a key learning for me, is that I would keep the design the exact same, because I made it beautiful and it stood for something and it had that meaning and that research. But it was more the design thinking and the process behind it that I would change. What about you, Michael?
I still love it.
Yeah, it's really aligned to your values
but it's
still 10 years later.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of my values, it's definitely aligns with it. So basically what it was is it was a packaging for some seeds, and it was done on this long tape, so urban people could just plant this in their planter boxes and these seeds would magically kind of grow. The whole packaging ethos around it was all around composting, so the whole package opened up as if it was going around in a circle or a circular kind of motion. Everything was made out of paper, so it was all biodegradable and all that kind of stuff. So it took a customer on this, I guess, what is it called? I had all these buzzwords back in the day with my presentation, but I completely forgot about them now. But anyway, it was cool. So yeah, I mean, I'm still like this hippie person out in Tawa growing vegetables. So, it was something. It was a personal love project for me.
And I think what we can get from that is that the projects that we all loved are aligned with our values then, and I guess our values haven't changed. So that's
Completely.
Key. Dylan, I'd love to know if you have any advice for anyone going through fourth year now or major project or even end of year exhibition. Was there any key learnings that you would just want to tell someone?
Definitely talk to like a wide range of lecturers, because they all have their own skills and talents, and they all have their own kind of advice to give. So they'll kind of give you like a broad range of advice, but you can take what you want from each of them. And
does it get confusing at stages?
It does, but I feel like not focusing on one lecturer's advice can also help you, because I talked to a few students or peers last year where they've talked to one lecturer and they've given them a certain advice, hey, you could go down this route, or another one saying, hey, go down this route. So it does get confusing, but I feel like you're going to take your own direction with what they give you.
And like when you need your perspective widened, you might go to someone that's going to push you and tell you all the things that you might not necessarily want to hear. And when you start like channeling into your project and going deeper, I know that was the same for me. When I was really lost, I went to one particular lecturer that was going to like blow my mind. And then I went to another towards the end of the project that I felt comfortable with and was really aligned with my own project. Because I think at the end of the day, it's just going to be like a reflection on how you feel.
And I think you also get that in industry as well. So like your creative director is going to guide you down a particular way. Probably if you talk to a senior designer as well, they'll put you in another perspective, and you've got to be the one that goes, nah, this is how I want to present or move forward with this thing. In some cases, in some design studios as well, other design studios are probably going to have this creative director that's going to go, nah, you got to do it this way. You got to do it.
And I think that's important when it comes to owning why you did something, because even now it's just opening up people's perspectives. So yeah, Michael loves doing things a certain way, as do I, and I might present something to him and he'll question what I've done, and as soon as I've been like, oh, I did it because of this, he's like, oh, okay. And that's, I guess, the same with clients, or when you're going for a job interview, if you just explain why you did something, they can't argue. Obviously, they can have different opinions of what something looks like, or if you could do it better.
But it gets the conversation starting.
It gets discussion going.
And hopefully you get to an end solution at the end of it. How important were your peers throughout honours year?
Yeah, no, they were very important. Even the peers that you didn't know too well. We had a Pastoral Plus group, which kind of randomly selected students all into kind of a small group, maybe like 10 to 15. You would have one lecturer, would go around at the start of the lecture and, see where we're all at, and you'd tell everyone else about your project. And that kind of started conversation through its own way. Like you'd be mentioning something about your topic, and then someone else could chime in saying, hey, I read this, could be relevant. Yeah. And even through that, super helpful.
I remember I was in the same group and it was like 10 people I didn't know, and because obviously you always want to stick with your friends, but it's so important to widen that group, and everyone's in the same boat. Like everyone's just as scared. It doesn't matter how cool they look or whatever. Everyone's
their beanies on.
Yeah, everyone's fretting about major projects. So I really love that advice. Everyone's researching so much stuff that it could help you in your own project, even if it's about sustainability and you're doing feminism. Like there's so many connections within design, and just opening up that realm of things.
And was there any like uncomfortable moments that you came across with doing the honours year? Like,
not really that uncomfortable off the top of my head. There's more just like challenging moments. Oh, I'm stuck on my writing my big thesis. I'm not sure like where I should take it from here. But I guess it's just all comes down to showing other people, even if it's your mates or your lecturers. Yeah. So it's always just getting that help.
Definitely.
And time ticks on, and you got through it.
Yeah.
And it was all good.
I got it done. Yeah, I think I'm a strong enough writer that I could, I managed my time well enough. I knew I could do, this many words per day, and I could time it out that way instead of stressing.
That's clever thinking.
That is the opposite of
Yeah.
me. I would say I'm a strong creative writer, but not a traditional academic writer. And I am just taking myself back to that time. Me and 3 of my friends are sitting in the design school, and it was meant to be due that morning, and our lecturers gave us an extension to 12 o'clock that midnight, and we all sat there and typed until 12 o'clock that night. And it was the worst idea ever, because everyone was celebrating. Everyone was celebrating hand-ins, and we were sitting there typing our thesis. So I recommend going down Dylan's route and knocking off, a few words a day.
I still feel like I left it a bit too late, but I mean, I got it in on time, but like it was, if you're doing it on the last day and you got, a few hundred words to write, even that's, stressful enough.
Yeah.
So,
because spell check guys get other, and I loved us 3 were doing that. Even though it was stressful in ourselves, we were able to swap theses and read each other's own. And I think that's where you pick up the mistakes or the things you've missed, is just getting people to read it, no matter how shit it is. I'd love to know, diving into the end of the year and it all wrapped up, what were your feelings around, okay, uni's finished, now I'm in the real world? Like, what was that experience?
I was kind of a bit scary. I kind of wanted to dive into real design work if I could. I knew a lot of people, wanted holidays and stuff, but I think we'd all get our own breaks during that exposure period. But yeah, my sort of direction was need to get my portfolio, CV all sorted out and just start applying.
And did you start applying when you were still in the end of uni, or did you start applying when everything was finished?
More so like when it was finished. I feel like industry night, which is part of exposure where, real clients come in, walk around and you kind of stand by your work and have a yarn to them if they're interested, was helpful. I talked to a few people about my work. Better to be outgoing in that respect.
Yeah.
And kind of approach them instead of kind of just waiting by your work.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. I was the same, and I was like ready to put myself out there, but I'd also had enough, and I'd had a couple of drinks my industry night, and it turned out the only person I talked to was Michael. But hey, I'm here and I've got a job. But definitely recommend just putting yourself out there, even if it's embarrassing and scary. You got to do it, because you've got to take responsibility for your future and your career and the connections you make. I
got talking to one group from Auckland. I actually didn't know they were from Auckland at the time. I didn't know, the people travelled so far to exposure. And we got talking, and they were kind of super interested in kind of a branding work for the company. And I was back and forth emails. I got on a phone call with him. He's like, hey, yeah, we're up in Auckland. I was like, what? So I kind of spent some because they were super keen on me, and I spent some time thinking, it's such a big move going to Auckland. Like, my girlfriend's down here, she's studying fashion as well. 1 year left. I was like, it was kind of a big choice to make, and I kind of knew if I stuck with my guns, I could probably, land a job somewhere around Wellington, which, I love the city, so it's kind of keen to stick around.
Definitely, and I think it's important that you went with your gut and you didn't just take the first job, because there's going to be those trial interviews, those trial jobs, and you'll just know deep down like whether you want to do it or not. And I think waiting for the right job or the right opportunity is key. How many interviews did you go through? Did you cold call people? Were you where were you searching? What was that experience looking for a job like? So
most of my searches were Trade Me, even the odd student job search. I'd have a look, see if there's any kind of design work. Often there's not, or there's kind of like a perky job, like, hey, can someone design these wedding invitations for me?
Like real freelance. Yeah,
mostly kind of like Trade Me, Seek, or even word of mouth. Someone might hear of a job and contact you. That didn't happen too often. I guess in total for design jobs, I've probably had maybe like 5 or 6 interviews up until now.
And so through that experience, did you end up repositioning, I guess, what your first CV and portfolio looked like to where it is now?
One big pointer was becoming more confident about talking about my work. You get a bit flustered when someone say, hey, can you talk me through this project that I've seen in your portfolio? Oh my God, like,
what was that? I can't remember anything.
I feel like I handled that okay, but there was definitely like room for improvement. And then I ended up having a portfolio review with Michael a few weeks back, giving me pointers about, how do I structure talking about my work? Can I change my portfolio in any way, or the order of my images, or adding extra images? And that was super helpful. And that was leading up to an interview I had maybe 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So that was awesome.
Cool. You mentioned, Dylan, that you went through about 5 job interviews. What was that experience like?
There were a couple of design interviews I had, and each job required something different as a designer. The first one I had was safety construction site. They kind of wanted a designer to come in and, you know, do all their kind of collateral brand guidelines kind of work. And the interview process was pretty relaxed and chill. Went in, talked to their communications manager. He talked me through the job and just asked basic questions, you know, where are you from? You know, what's your story? Kind of went through a few portfolio pieces and asked me to talk through them and what I learned, all that side of it. So that went well. I thought that went, you know, quite well. And then the second part to that was doing a design task. I feel like most kind of design interviews, they'll get you to make something little or, you know, design something.
So what were those design things? Because that's kind of like a new thing that
Yeah,
I
I've
haven't
never
really
had to do
heard.
that.
No.
Yeah.
This one was super simple. It was literally, there'll be an InDesign document and it'll be like, change this image. A Word document saying, hey, can you change this text? Can you like make this capitals? You know, real
Oh, wow.
super.
So
okay.
kind of like
Yeah.
climate changey things just to
Yeah.
see if you can do it.
Kind of just changing the master page, you know, that kind of stuff. There were more challenging ones. So I did that, sent that through, and then I got a call maybe the end of that week saying, you know, oh, you know, it's such a difficult process, which I was like, you know, fair enough. It was a pretty popular job from what I've heard. It was such a difficult decision. You know, you didn't get it this time, but would love to keep your CV with us. I was like, you know, yeah, it's fair enough. Did
What
seem
was
like
that first rejection like?
I was like, bit stink, but
You just got to pick yourself back up, I guess.
yeah, I
and
mean,
just
there's so many.
on to the next.
There'd be so many designers, you know, even from Massey staying in Wellington, so very tough competition.
Yeah.
And then from, I guess, that interview, what was the time frame for you, like your next one that you had?
The next one was actually the next week, early next week.
Wow,
But this wasn't for a design job, it was more for a social media role in Parliament. So I'd been doing Massive Magazine's social media and I got contacted through LinkedIn, funnily
Right,
enough.
cool.
So yeah, always good to
Have
be
a profile?
be on heaps of social media channels. And so it was the one from Parliament kind of hit me up saying, hey, I, you know, looked through social media kind of roles or communication roles and, you know, you seem like a good fit in Parliament. And then she sent me through kind of the job description, senior social media advisor, and I was like, looked through and I was like, oh, you know, I'm not qualified for this. And I was honest with her. I was like, you know, hey, you know,
What's going on
yeah.
here?
And I was
Make
like,
it
hey,
do make it.
yeah. And I was like, hey, I don't think I've got the experience for this. And I sent through my CV and all that. She's like, hey, I agree. Like, but, you know, do you mind if I keep your CV on hold just in case there's another job? And a week later, there was a normal social media advisor role.
Right,
So she put me in contact with someone in Parliament. I had to do a video editing task for you know an MP in Parliament and had to caption it and all that. That was actually quite fun. And
Yeah,
then
sounds
send that
cool.
through, and she's like, "Hey, you know, this is a good job. You want to come in for an interview?" And so I went in, had to dress very nice for Parliament, dress pants and all that.
Get out your
Not
suit.
used to our
Yeah.
welly design attire.
Yeah.
Well, plain black.
Yeah. But a lot of the questions I was comfortable answering. Like, hey, you know, what are your social media experience? What have you learned? Kind of what are your skills in photo and editing? I feel like I wasn't too strong in videography and all that side of it, and I was honest about that. I didn't want to lie about that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And in the end, I got shortlisted with one other interviewee, and then they ended up choosing them because they had the strengths in videography. So
And in the long run, it helps you because obviously you don't want to put yourself in a predicament where you're stressed because you don't have the skills.
Exactly.
So you're just like looking after yourself when you're going for that.
And were those interview questions the same between those two interviews, or were they very different? Because one was a little bit more governmental, parliamentary
Yeah.
stuff, and the other one was like for a corporate kind of business, I guess.
Yeah, so the social media role, they were asking me more like, hey, you know, are you up to date with politics? Are you interested in politics? You know, that
Right.
kind of side to it. So I feel like for that job, you'd have to be kind of interested in the role to succeed, I guess, in
Yeah.
a way, yeah.
Did you ever feel like when you kept going for interviews that you were like, oh, here we go again? Just like you're on this like never ending journey, like another interview, another day, might not get the job, might get, or like every time where you're like, yeah, this is the one.
At one point, you start second guessing, am I saying the right things, you know,
Yeah.
if I'm not getting all these jobs, but I'm getting close, I'm getting the interviews, you know, what's happening. But I guess it's just kind of sticking through it
Yeah.
and trusting yourself, I guess. Yeah.
Definitely. The right one will always come along, no matter how many interviews.
So then after that Parliament one, where did you go?
Around that time, it was Christmas break, so I kind of went home for 2 weeks.
To Wonga, Vegas.
Yeah, old Wonga, Vegas. What a place. It was a good time. And
Apply
then
for any jobs there?
there was one I applied for, and that was through Trade Me, and that was at a research institute. They just wanted a kind of graduate designer position, do a wide range of work for them, kind of a small team. And I applied for that, and then they kind of mentioned, hey, we're getting back from holidays, so we might be like a few weeks into January when we might contact. And then got a call, around that time, maybe about 3 weeks into January, saying, hey, we're interested, you've been shortlisted if you want to come in for an interview. And I was like, real keen.
Yeah.
Went in, did the whole process again. Yeah. This time it was more like the company told me more about, not the company, but the lady who runs the research institute, told me her story, and they wanted someone that would be a good fit for their culture because they're such a small team. So I feel like that kind of plays into it as well. Not just having the skills, but having the
team fit and
exactly.
personality.
But an interesting part to that interview was halfway through, she kind of even admitted how I've actually got this one other person in mind who I'm super keen on. And I was like, oh, well, like, I'm not expecting much from this job then, am I? But did the design task and all that. There was another design task. This was more creating a poster and a brochure advertised climate change or a workshop they were thinking of. So there was a lot of creative freedom there and kind of a more intense design task than the previous ones.
Those design tasks, how long did you invest in to kind of create that
Did they
work?
get you to sit down and do it, or do you get to go home and like you have do you have a deadline?
Yeah, she kind of gave me a couple of days to do that. I kind of spent one full day working on it. I didn't want to invest too much time. I kind of knew that she was interested in someone else already, so it was a bit of a bummer, but I did that, sent it through, and then maybe like 2 days later she rang up saying, hey, sorry, it was a difficult decision again. But I was like, I've heard this before.
You're like, been there, done that.
Yeah.
That's awesome though, because each time you pick yourself up, what was your most recent interview process like? Have you had a positive outcome yet?
2 weeks ago, Adrian, who's the account manager at Open Lab, hit me up about a potential job, asking, if I'm still looking. I was like, yeah, I'm still searching for a job. And she said, I might have one lined up. Kind of told me about the role. It was with a recruitment agency who've got a sister company as well. They specialise in employee experiences. Kind of innovated the game, I guess. Their system is a lot different to other human resource places. And she kind of asked if I was interested in the role. I was like, definitely something I'm keen on. Got me in contact with someone from the company. Later in the week, had a call with her, talked about the role more, asked me a bit about myself. It was kind of like a bit of an interview on the phone, I guess, on the go. And then went in the next week, had a good chat, went through my portfolio. And by that time, I'd had the portfolio review with Michael.
So you nailed it?
Yeah, I definitely talked about my skills rather than just my work. So
cool.
Yeah, I think that definitely helped. And then moving on from there, she was keen. She had a chat to their founder, who was keen on meeting me as well. I ended up going in on another day and meeting her.
It's always a good sign.
Yeah, I was like, super excited to meet her. And, she was real lovely. They were all, such a nice team. And then she talked me more into the business side. This is how the business came to be. This is our story. So it was a lot more casual. They were going to get me to do a design task. In the end, I think they were both away until a certain point. I think in the end, they just ended up checking my references and got the call last week saying, we'd love to have you on the team.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
Clappy claps.
That's the aim of the game.
Yeah. So I kind of knew, like, I'm landing these interviews, so I must be doing something right. Kind of a matter of time, when, not if.
And do you feel like you landed the job because maybe it was just the right fit, or did you change anything from those other interviews, apart from obviously doing the portfolio review with Michael?
Yeah, definitely the way I structured how I talk about my work definitely sold my skills.
Definitely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how do you feel now that you've got a job, and when does it
I
start?
feel good, Michael. And I start tomorrow. So,
Wow, tomorrow.
Yeah, I think the challenge to this role would be that I'll be kind of the sole designer there, so I won't really have that kind of guidance from another designer. I'll be more talking to like a manager of like communications or marketing, that kind of side to it, who might not have that design experience per se, but
Definitely.
Yeah.
And I think reflecting on everything we've talked about today, two things coming out of that is having confidence in yourself and talking to peers, whether you can like talk to come back and talk to Michael or get your own mentor or, ask the manager or something.
Yeah, for sure.
And kind of stay connected to like design networks and all that kind of stuff as well. They all always help.
When you went into university and when you finished fourth year and then you started looking for a job, did you have an idea of where you wanted to work or like what you wanted to be or do, and like what has that matched up to now?
I feel like a lot of people have kind of a specific route in terms of graphic design where they want to go, whether that's like web design or just editorial, that side to it. But I feel like I'd want to work on a more wide range of projects, just widen my skill set in a way. And I feel like this job kind of aligns with that quite well. I feel like a lot of their design output can be a web or print or...
Cool.
I think that was my kind of experience as well when I left university. I went straight into like small to medium agencies, and I feel they require you to have a big depth kind of skill base, and you learn quite a lot throughout that whole process, from beginning that project right through to delivering it and all that kind of stuff, and that's across different platforms and channels. I think it's really cool that you've got into a role where there is room to grow and you're almost in control of the whole thing, which is pretty cool and scary all at the same time, but you'll find your feet, and I'm sure it will be awesome little job.
Yeah, super excited to be there. They sent me a package the other day, kind of some forms to fill out, and there was an extra box there, and I opened it, and they sent me some champagne.
Oh my god!
I was like, wow. Like,
that is team culture.
Yeah.
So have you drunken your bubbles yet?
I have, yeah.
Oh, already gone.
Yeah, celebrate,
had to
guys.
celebrate.
It's a big triumph.
Yeah, I feel like there was a lot of conversation for people saying, oh, you're studying design, or, you know, what's the chances of you getting a job?
I feel like that's such a myth nowadays, that
It's
design
so crazy.
industry. But I think if you have faith in yourself, and design has become so important within the world currently, that there is jobs anywhere. It might not be in the design studio that you thought, or being like a print designer, and it could be, you know, doing social media for a shampoo company or something. But there is jobs. You just got to find them and do all the interviews and you'll get there.
And was your whānau proud of you?
They were. I rang mum and she was, you know,
Oh, that's
So, yeah.
awesome.
It's
Yeah.
so good.
I think that was their main thing, was like, you're studying this at uni, you better get a job out of it.
Yeah.
And I did, so I'm happy.
Were your like friend group that you studied with on the same level as you? Were they still finding a job? Had they already had a job?
I had one mate who's kind of working for freelance clients, so, you know, there's different directions you can take in a way. I feel like most of them were kind of looking towards finding a place to work for, like a company or a design agency, yeah.
And have a lot of them stayed in Wellington, or have they all gone places?
A few have kind of moved back to their hometowns,
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, trying to get a design job would be super hard in Wanganui. So I feel like kind of the bigger cities are where there's more opportunities.
I think that was the same thing. Probably that
Exact
happened
same.
to me and you, know, back in Taranaki.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
There's
Although
a few now. They've upped their game,
yeah.
but definitely, and it's while it's still fresh, you know, you've got all the connections from uni still here. Why not use the city to your advantage? Thank you so much for coming in, Dylan. We really appreciate you going back in time to experience all those highs and lows, and hopefully a lot of our listeners today they're going into their 4th year, or that might be their 3rd year, or they're still looking for a job, and it's nice to know that everyone goes through the same process.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's just cool.
Proud parents.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for tuning in, and if you want to see any more from us, you can head over to our Instagram, which is OpenLabNZ, or head to our website, and all the details are in the show notes. Can't wait to talk to you soon.
Bye.
Ka kite!